What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the MLB Futures Best Bets show presented by the Diamond Vault Discord. My name is Jordan. You may know me as Shot Props. I know hockey. So I'm not going to be saying too much today. Joining me are gentlemen who do, and we may have a few special guests joining us later as well. So going around the horn, we've got PVB Bets, Adams Digest, and Nick's MLB Picks. What's going on today, fellas?
Not too much, Shots. What's going on?
I am excited for this. Like I said, I don't know much about baseball, so I'm hoping to lock in some futures from you all. So before we get started, why don't we kind of go around the horn? And if you just want to say yourself a little bit about you, what you bet, and how people can follow your work, and then we'll kind of jump into our agenda. So we'll start with PVB, who put this all together.
Sure. So I'm PVB Bets. I'm part of the Diamond Vault crew. I've been doing this for about 2 years now. I do baseball, football, and basketball, but I would say baseball is my primary sport. That's kind of what got me into all this. So really looking forward to getting into the season. I think last year was a little bit up and down, so I'm really looking forward to kind of locking in and doing a lot better this year.
I love it. I love it. I think Adam's having some audio issues, so he's going to leave and come right back. So Nick, why don't we go to you next? A little bit about you and where people can find your content.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Nick's MLB Picks, and I post just about everything on my chalkboard. So pretty much I'll make a bet, put it right onto my chalkboard, and then most of the time it makes it to Twitter, but if I'm busy, it won't. But just about all my stuff will eventually end up on Twitter. But I actually have the majority of my futures card already posted to my chalkboard. I have a little futures tab, so it's a pretty obnoxious amount of bets, but too much to post on Twitter. So I'll post the full card a couple of days before the season starts, but I post everything on my chalkboard. And
I love it. I love it.
And yeah, I've been doing this about 5 years, just like 3 years on the Twitter sphere. So
very nice, very nice. And Adam, how you doing? Can you hear us? See a message that might be from him?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
we can hear
Perfect.
you. Sounds
How
like
we doing, guys? Sorry about that.
We're good. No worries,
no
worries.
Man.
So we're just looking for you to kind of introduce yourself, let people know what you kind of bet on and what work they can find or expect from you and where they can find your content.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me. I kind of focus on a little bit of every sport, kind of dabble in the player props pool like everybody else here. I'm a big hockey guy, so I love betting on some hockey props, kind of where I started. But MLB has kind of been my love ever since I played in high school and everything like that. So a little bit for me, I kind of dabble in some price shots, some longer shots. You'll see a few of those tonight. But during the regular season, just like everybody else, pitcher K letters, and I'm actually kind of doing some things I've been kind of working on is betting some, kind of staying sharp with the market and trying to dabble on some hitter under props. So I was pretty profitable with those last year. Finding guys that are pinch hit for are always kind of fun little markets that the books are not catching up to so far. So you'll see a lot of that from me as well. So you can find my work right now. I'm over at the Playbook HQ Discord. We're premium, but we're only $2 a month. So that's where I could be found. A lot of my plays also are put on Twitter as well.
I love it. Thanks so much, gentlemen. That is perfect. If you are watching live, please like and subscribe. And if you have questions or comments for our experts, pop them in the chat. We'll bring up as many as we can. And if for anybody who's not able to join us live, we will be releasing this as a standalone video and audio file after as well. So with that being said, let's jump right into our agenda. So first things first, we're looking to ask each of you for a tip or two on some new things an MLB bettor should pay attention to if they're a little bit newer to betting and or betting baseball. So PVB, we will start with you.
Yeah, sure. So I would say like I primarily focus probably more on I'm a prop guy, so I focus probably more on the pitcher side than the hitter side, but I'm slowly becoming more acclimated to the hitter side. I would say if you're a new MLB bettor, like as it comes to player props, like one of the biggest things to understand is the splits. So, unlike some other sports, whether an individual is facing a right-hander or left-hander really matters in baseball. So it's important to kind of break down those splits, either when you're doing pitcher props or hitter props, whoever that starter is that day. So make sure you're considering that in your analysis and not just taking the overall K rate, but take a look at how they do against both lefties and righties.
Awesome piece of advice. We got a couple comments I'm going to get to. Millie, what's going on? He is an NBA and NFL capper in Diamond Vault. What's going on, Millie? Thanks for joining us. And we got our studio. What's going on? Thanks for joining us. Okay, we are going to go to Nick. A tip for a new MLB bettor.
Yeah. So just a couple rules of thumb I usually go by, and I'm doing a new one this year. But my first one is I don't really do parlays for baseball. I know that that's a lot of people's bread and butter, but I've lost a lot of money in parlays in the last handful of years betting baseball. So I stay away from them, and I just tail people who are good at parlays, and I'm not. Another thing is when I'm on cold streaks or just a stretch where I just can't hit my way out of a wet paper bag, my advice is to stick to money lines. Keep it simple, stupid for that. And just something new that I'm doing this year is I invest pretty heavily in the futures market as far as like 1 unit, 2 units, and 3 units, 3 units being my max. But for the regular season, I'm actually going to shrink my unit size to my normal play being about 1/4 of a unit, half unit. 1 unit will probably be my max play for the regular season, just because there is so much variance. And I invest and research heavily into my futures card. So personally, I just want to put a little more weight into that. And I'm cool with waiting the 8 or 9 months for my futures to pay out. It just last year was a rough year for me personally during the regular season, whereas the year before was really good. So I can see how it can balance out. And my futures card, they've always been profitable pretty heavily. So last year, my regular season was so bad it actually negated my futures card, which was pretty disappointing. So I'm looking to make that not happen this year. But that's my advice to anybody who wants to get into baseball betting and my little viewpoint on it.
Great piece of advice and lessons learned from your experience. That's awesome. Love to see it. What is up, Uncle Ted? Thanks for joining us today. Adam, we're going to go to you next. Beginner tips.
Yeah, so Nick hit it right on the head. Baseball is a high variance sport. You could have, a Ronald Acuna be the best hitter in baseball, and he strikes out 3 times and he goes 0 for 4. So you got to be really careful with, someone hits a ball 110 miles an hour off the bat and finds a glove. Those are the most tilting days where you're like, the research was there, but the outcome was not. So when it comes to betting baseball, really just, like Nick said, when you have there's going to be some really high swings, really high lows, and really high, peaks. And you just got to make sure that you stick to your process. Dig a little bit deeper. Did a pitcher throw this pitch a little bit harder? Did he stop throwing this pitch? So do your own research, but also obviously take some advice. And I guess my thing for bettors is just to make sure that you're sticking to your process, sticking to your guns. And at the end of the day, 55% profit is better than, being negative, 45% profitable on the long run. So it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, I think people get caught up way too caught up in, short-term windows when you've got, even at least in hockey, which is what I can reference, is an 82-game season. You've got double that in MLB. So don't think too small. You do got to think bigger. And it's a great segue to futures. That's as big as we can look. So we're going to go around the horn and look at 2 to 3 futures that you like and why you like them. There are no restrictions. It can be a team total, division winners, player props, awards, whatever you got. We want to hear it. Your 2 or 3 favorites. And then we've got a couple of comments here. So Uncle Ted says, do the opposite of what Nick does. Well, Nick said what worked and what didn't and how he's adjusting. So yeah, do what he's going to do this year.
Ted is a funny guy.
Hey, it's better than having nobody in the chat. So we appreciate you, Ted. Why don't we start with Nick? Is there a future that you want to start with?
Yeah, probably my favorite one this year, and the exact line isn't available now. You can still get this bet, just not with the same amount of games. But I have the 3 units on the Royals to win over 71.5 games. So I think that line has actually bumped up to like 73.5. But I clicked that probably 2 months ago or so. So again, that's like in my chalkboard. That's where I post all my stuff. So I don't think it's made its way to Twitter yet. But just a few points I have on. I didn't know if you wanted analysis on this or if you just wanted us to throw out bets.
No, I think a little bit of analysis would be great if you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. So just they've had a huge offseason. They're going to have a full season of Cole Reagans, who is just another little plug. He's one of my AL Cy Young picks at 33-1. They're going to have a full season of Vinny Pasquantino, who is the man. And he did everything that was expected of him until his shoulder started acting up last year. So Bobby Witt is also my American League MVP. So he's on there. They had Hunter Renfroe. They traded for John Schreiber, who was fantastic with the Red Sox the last couple of years for their bullpen. And another Red Sox was Josh Taylor, who has been injured the last couple of years. But if any of you remember way back, he was really good with the Red Sox as well. So the reason I'm mentioning the bullpen so much as well is they were pretty awful last year. They made some improvements to it. And one of my favorite advanced stats to look at for bullpens is Sierra. And the Royals actually almost had a full run differential between their actual ERA and their Sierra, which I find Sierra to be a really, really, really predictive stat, or a really successful predictive stat for bullpens at least. And the Royals also, they were 4th in outs above average last year. So they're awesome defensively. And I think the bounce back against this pick is like they only won like 50-something games last year. And I really think that last year was like the worst case scenario for the Royals. And I don't see anything like that happening this year. I actually think they can win that division as well.
I love it. And what was the total of games won?
I want to say like 56. I'll have to double check.
Okay.
But it was not great.
Very nice. Thank you for that one, Nick. Let's keep it going. We'll go to Adam next, and then we'll go to PvP, and then we'll go once more around the panel. And I think we've got a couple people who are trying to join us as well. So we may have some special guests soon.
Perfect. Yeah, so Nick is all in for the Royals. I am all in on the Seattle Mariners. So the Seattle Mariners, I'm going over 86.5 wins. So I think that's one of my favorite bets on the board right now from a team total standpoint. The Seattle Mariners have 4 of the best top 4 arms in the rotation. Obviously, their 4th could be number 2 on a lot of rotations in Bryce Miller. So and he's got a lot of upside. So why do I like the Mariners? Obviously, you have Julio Rodriguez, one of the best hitters in baseball, one of the best young hitters in baseball. If he keeps his second half numbers from last year going, he is going to have an AL MVP type of season there for us. Sorry about that, guys. And I think their bullpen's great. Munoz on the back end. Again, I think their starting rotation. I think I have less question marks about the Mariners than I do a lot of other teams in that division. Oh, and by the way, they play the A's and the A's and the Angels quite a bit this year, being in their own division. So they can rack up a few wins going that way too. So Mariners, I'm all in on George Kirby, which will be another one of my props here in a minute. But Seattle Mariners, I love you guys. Don't let me down.
All right. So Adam with Mariners over 86.5 wins. PVB, you are up.
Awesome. Yeah, I like both of those futures quite a bit. I'm also going to go with a total here, except it's going to be an under. I posted this on Twitter, so people may be familiar with it, but I'm taking the Miami Marlins under 78.5 wins. I found that minus 105 on DraftKings. If we look at last year they went 84 and 78. But when you look at something called Pythagorean expectation, it's essentially a predictive measure of how well a team should have done given just their run differential. And come to find out, Miami was actually the luckiest team last season. So based on the Pythagorean expectation, they pretty much said that they had 9 more wins than maybe they would have if they had some sort of regression. So I think, we're already looking at a team that probably overexceeded last season. But then you add to that, you lose Jorge Soler, who finished with 36 homers, and you're losing Sandy Alcantara, who is pretty much an automatic for 200 plus innings. And then just a team that refuses to spend to replace those sort of things is an uphill battle for them. So if we kind of like break down their individual, whenever I look at teams, I like to break down kind of the individual components. So we look at the offense really struggled last year. They were ranked 26th in WAR, 19th in OBP, and 19th in slugging. And now this offense gets a little worse from a power perspective, and they're essentially becoming more and more reliant on these young, unestablished guys, and then some of which have durability concerns. So we see like Jazz and Jesus Sanchez have yet to play 130 games in a season. So I think on top of the offense already struggling and not getting much better, there's still a lot of question marks. If we move on to their starting staff, that's probably their biggest strength. However, I think that also has a lot of question marks. Last season, they were ranked 10th in WAR and 8th in K per 9, which is great. Luzardo, the front of their staff, is great. But the loss of Sandy really can't be understated. And the reason that is, Sandy wasn't amazing last year, but he's such a workhorse. He's pretty much going to go out there and give you 6 to 9 innings, 200 plus innings on the season. And you really need that, especially for a young staff like the Marlins. So I think they're really going to miss that. If we look at the remainder of their staff, I think they have a lot of exciting young players, but we're talking about several of them are going to have innings limits. There's durability concerns. Edward Cabrera is like an incredible prospect, but he struggles with command at times. So I don't know if he can pitch deep into games. If we look at Braxton Garrett, he's mostly pretty much like a 5-inning and done pitcher. And they're going to have to lean on a bullpen that's not very good. So if we look at the bullpen, they were bad last year, 21st in pen ERA. Although if you do look at it, they were 13th in FIP. Normally you could say, all right, there's probably some positive regression there. However, FIP relies on defense, and their defense was atrocious last year. Ranked 29th in defensive WAR, and I don't think it got better. I think, I posted this before the addition of Tim Anderson, but I think even with the addition of Tim Anderson, he's a good player, and I thought they got him on a nice deal, but he's more of what they already have. So he's someone that's not a particularly good defender and doesn't have a lot of pop. So ultimately, I just think there's just too many questions here in this team, and I just can't project them to get to 80, 79 plus wins.
All right, great recap. So that's Marlins under 78.5 wins. You said minus 105 at DK. Very nice. How many do we want to do? Do we want to do 3 a person? Does that sound good? 3 futures per person?
Do it.
Yeah,
All
sounds
right.
good to me.
Okay, we're going to
That
go
sounds
around
good.
the horn again. We'll start with, or we'll keep going. So Nick, you're up.
Yeah, I might break that rule of 3. I think I already gave like 3 with my awards futures. But I just wanted to go off of Adam. I actually have that Seattle over as well, and I really like that Marlins under too. I'm kind of waiting on it. I want to see what they do, just to also bump off of that. I think the Marlins, as bad as their farm system is, they're gonna look to sell at the deadline too, just to reinforce that farm. So throwing more on that Marlins bet. I might have to click it myself. But so my other favorite bet of this season, another one I have 3 units on, and this line has also changed. So I'd probably play it for 1 unit with the line it's at now, but it's the Cincinnati Reds over 80.5 wins. I got that on Bovada minus 115. I got that about two or 3 months ago. I clicked that as soon as it was posted because it just seemed so ridiculous. But they won 82 games last year, and I really didn't think they were that good last year, and they got so much better. Like, their rotation is super deep. They have Hunter Green, Graham Ashcraft, Frankie Montas, Andrew Abbott, Nick Martinez, and Nick Lodolo's battling a leg injury still. But that's 6 guys right there. I think there was speculation that they were going to go with a 6-man rotation. I'm not sure if they will, just to kind of keep their guys healthy. They still have a lot of young arms there. And one thing that I've struggled with the Reds is, they're in the Great American Ballpark, terrible pitcher's park. and a lot of their pitchers have struggled with injuries. But they have Brandon Williamson, Connor Phillips, and Lyon Richardson in the minors ready to go, ready to be called up, who are all really, really good pitching prospects. So I'm looking forward to seeing. One of the other points I have for the Reds is just speed. They were first in baseball last year in stolen bases, and that's without a full season of Ellie De La Cruz or Noelvi Marte. And they have 7 starters with sprint speed between 28.3 to 30.5. So that's all in the top 75 to 100th percentile in Major League Baseball. So they're going to run wild. Even if the pitching staff isn't that good, this offense is going to score so many runs. It's just going to be a blast to watch. One more red flag that I had about the Reds that I wanted to kind of go over is that they were horrendous defensively last year. And just a few of their worst defenders were Jose Barrero, Nick Senzel, Spencer Steer, and Jonathan India. Spencer Steer had minus 17 defensive runs saved, which is, I think, one of the worst in baseball. But Jose Barrero shouldn't sniff the roster. Jonathan India, they're moving him around. So he's going to be a utility man, and he's also banged up right now. And then Nick Senzel's on the Nationals. And Spencer Steer, they moved him around like crazy last year. So I think they're going to lock him into one position and have him sit there, and he can't be worse defensively. So I'm super excited about the Reds.
Love that one. Nick, could you just recap the number for the future there?
So it's probably up to 82.5, and I'd still take that. But I had it the Reds over 80.5 wins, and that was on Bovada. But I believe it's up to 82.5. But if you find it 81.5, I'd hit that pretty hard too. I'd probably play that at 2 units.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, 80 to 81.5 if you can find it. Nick would still play it at 82.5. So shop around. Sounds like a lot of these are moving. So lock them in quick if you like what you're hearing. We're gonna go back to who's up next. It was Adam.
I think so.
All right.
So my next play is going to be it's a semi-juicy one. I have another one here in a little bit, but we're going for Fernando Tatis to join the 30-30 club. You can find that at DK at plus 300. I think you like that. I think a lot of people are liking that. If you look at the projections, the Bad X actually has Fernando Tatis projected for 36 home runs and 32 stolen bases. So from a projection standpoint, depending on what projection system you use, I actually kind of tend to do a little bit more. I kind of lean hitters, the Bad X, and I kind of lean more pitchers, the ATC projections when I'm doing fantasy drafts and everything like that. Just because ATC kind of uses a little bit of everything from Zips to Steamer. He's got his own little projection thing there. But so going back to Fernando Tatis, I think he gets back to his 2021 form. He had a wrist injury plus the suspension for 2022. 2023 last year, he was up and down the lineup, but he's projected to bat leadoff every single day this year. He doesn't have Juan Soto, so I don't think he's, people are going to pitch around him. Once he gets on base, he's going to run. And batting, a couple of numbers from the leadoff spot. He has, from the leadoff spot in his career, he has a 374 on base percentage and a 291 ISO just from batting from the leadoff spot. So I think he gets back to the form from the power. I think his wrist is fully healthy. He just destroyed one today, if anybody saw that in spring going on today. But also, I think he's going to run. I think there's nobody behind him that they're going to be like, all right, we got to pitch to him because Juan Soto's coming up. He's going to take a bunch of walks. So I think his walk rate goes up. I think he's got 11% walk rate last year batting for the leadoff spot. So we're getting great value at plus 300 in this for somebody that's already projected to do it. So that's my play.
Love it. Love it. All right. Thank you for sharing that one. We are going back to PVB.
Awesome. Yeah, I like the Tatis play a lot. I think this could be the year. If I could bet, I wish I can't in New York, but if I could bet NL MVP, I probably would have a little bit on him as well. I'm going to kind of piggyback off Nick's play. He took the Cincinnati win total, and I'm probably going to sprinkle on them to win the division at plus 430 on FanDuel. I don't put a ton of money on futures, but so this would be like a 0.25 unit for me. But this team is just so much fun, and they're in a pretty weak division without any sort of juggernaut like, the Braves or the Dodgers. They have, the Pirates that are clearly the worst team there. The Cardinals that are coming off a terrible season And then they just lost their team leader in Molina and then traded away, a really good bat in O'Neill. I think there's probably some clubhouse issues there, so I'm not sure. I think they probably do bounce back, but again, I don't think they become some sort of juggernaut. And there's still plenty of question marks on their staff and within their pen. Milwaukee's obviously coming off the division win last season, but I think they have a ton of question marks on the offensive side, especially they're kind of have an influx of young guys, but they traded away Burns. We have questions. Are Ray and Miley just guys? Miley was great last year, but I don't imagine that's what we're going to see this year. Can Peralta stay healthy? Is DL Hall ready to make a difference? Is Woodruff going to get healthy and be the same after shoulder surgery? So I think there's a lot of question marks there. And if we look at the Cubs, they've kind of always just been like a middle pack team. They do have some intrigue, but again, plenty of questions in that staff and on the offensive side of the ball. If we look at the Reds, the lineup is super exciting. So we have McLean and Friedel, both of which have a ton of speed and have pop at the top of the order. Spear, I know Nick mentioned he's a poor defender, but he's actually also an on-base machine, which is really nice. And then De La Cruz behind him is, we all know he's like a budding superstar. We have India and Candelario, which I think will be mixed in. They're solid bats. And then I do really like Marte as a prospect. He was traded from Seattle. And then, on the back end, we have Stevenson probably hitting the 8 or 9 spot, and I really like him as a hitting catcher. And we still probably have some development left in Encarnacion Strand, and I still have some faith in Stuart Fairchild too. So I think there are offensive weapons here. I don't think last year was a fluke. I think they're going to grow on that. And I do think the rotation is really interesting too. If we can keep Hunter Green healthy, he just added a new pitch this spring to try to get a little bit more off speed into his game. I have always, anyone that's talked to me, I've always been in love with Graham Ashcraft. I think he has insane stuff. I think he has some untapped potential of developing maybe another off-speed pitch. We saw Abbott just kind of come out of the gate and look excellent in his debut. And then I think going out and getting Montas is a really nice comeback candidate. And then, of course, we do have Lodolo, who should return at some point early 2024, despite the setback that he had. The bullpen did stink. But they did go ahead and add a couple of veterans, added Pagan and Suter, and they're hoping for a healthy year from Sims. One thing about the Reds is they're pretty good at developing arms. I think they can probably do enough this year to put a solid pen together. So obviously it's a longer shot, plus 430, but I think, not only is it very possible, but it's a really fun thing to root for this season.
Very nice summary. Cincinnati to win the division, plus 350. You can find that at DK right now. Again, I can't speak much for baseball, but always encourage people to shop around in general. So if you have access to other books, see what best lines you can get. I know hockey futures in particular vary a ton book to book. We have a new host who's joined us, or a new panelist who's joined us. So we're going to bring Ray up. What's going on, Fire?
What's up? What's going on?
Good. Not much. We are doing some MLB futures. Did you have some ready that you wanted to chat about, or are you just kind of chiming in as we go?
No, I'm kind of just chiming in as we go. Big MLB guy, but I've never been a future for any sport kind of guy. So I was looking on maybe locking something in during the show, maybe doing a 3-way, 4-way collab with the guys. Whether it's a hitter prop, division winner, or something of that sort. But just here for the support, of Diamond Vault, and just happy to be here, honestly. So
I love it. And real quick, do you have a tip or two for new MLB bettors? Anything come to mind?
Nothing that really comes to mind. For me, I'm mostly just, a hit parlay kind of guy. I'm a prop guy, total bases. Absolutely fell in love with hit run RBI last year. That was my bread and butter. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure they'll be adding more juice to that prop this year. Last year, to start the season, hit run RBIs were very, very playable. As the season got on, they started adjusting to it. Same with many other props. So we'll just see how that goes. just looking forward to MLB season. Should be fun and long season.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. So just so you know what we're doing, we are going kind of around the board. Each of our experts shared 3 picks. They've all mentioned 2 future bets so far. So this is our last time around the horn, and we are back to Nick's picks.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I love all this Reds love. This is fantastic. Probably the Reds and the Royals are my 2 favorite. I'm like closet fans of them this year. So I also have the Reds to win the division. But again, I got that a long time ago, so the line's different now. But this one isn't my favorite. This is just one that I kind of like to talk about. But it's Tyler Glasnow over 170.5 strikeouts this year, minus 115. That one's a 1-unit play. Just if you want to do some quick math, I think Tyler Glasnow needs to throw like 133 innings just to hit this prop. So he could hit this by the All-Star break. And obviously the line is set so low because of all of his health concerns. But he's been on record saying that he's always pitched with discomfort, like almost his whole career. So he's also went on record saying that this offseason that discomfort has been gone. And in the past, he's had issues with, obviously he had elbow surgery, he's had shoulder issues. Last year he went on the IL for an oblique injury, which is something completely different. So it's not like it's the same lingering issue that has been bothering him. And I think also that he had an innings limit regardless last year, that Tampa told him that he was going to have some kind of phantom IL stint. So I don't know if that was a phantom one or not, but he's a hometown kid. He's in Los Angeles. That's where he's from. Just all the vibes from Glasnow have been awesome this offseason. And again, if like betting on an injury-prone player like this, if this line was at 199, I would obviously pass on it. I mean, I wouldn't bet the under, but I would just pass on it outright. But I mean, he needs to throw 130 innings to hit this, and that's absolutely realistic for him.
I love it. Thanks so much for that, Nick. So Glasnow over 170.5 Ks at minus 115 on Bovada. All right. We go into Adam next.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. So my next one is going to be George Kirby. I told you I guys like the Mariners a little bit this year. And so I'm going George Kirby over 170.5 strikeouts. I get this minus 110 flat on DK. The reason why I love this is because he had 172 strikeouts last year. And he had a 15% strikeout, 19% strikeout rate in the first half last year, and he ended with a 25% strikeout rate last year in the second half. So at the first half, he was finding his pitches, and he was kind of neutral left and right. Obviously, we know George Kirby is one of the best command pitchers in baseball. He had a 2% walk rate last year, which is unheard of. I mean, he had 19. I think he had a total of 19 walks the entire year in 190 innings. I mean, it's just insane. You don't see that very often. So when I look for somebody that's going to make that next step, I kind of look at, all right, can he get swings and misses outside the zone? Can he lose a little bit of his walk percentage and, increase his swing and strikes? And George Kirby's the perfect candidate to do that. So a little bit more, just to get a little nerdy with you guys. I kind of looked at what he throws and what he could possibly do, and why did his numbers go up in the second half? And so he threw 5 pitches last year. He threw a curveball, 4-seamer, sinker, slider, and then he introduced a splitter. So the splitter is actually what really kept the lefties at bay. He only threw it last year, I believe. So I wrote this up here in an article. So he got 19 strikeouts on only 49 plate appearances for a 40% K rate. The thing with the splitter is really hard to do mid-season, let alone, from first half to second half. And he only threw it like 2% of the time in the first half, and then he threw it in a total of like 8% in the second half. Now you give him a complete offseason to work on this pitch. Logan Gilbert and another one of his teammates threw the splitter last year, and is unbelievable with it. So you kind of pick his brain about how he does it. Obviously, he doesn't have the same size hands as Logan Gilbert, who's 6'6", one of the best extensions in baseball. So you're going to have his own little feel on it. But I really think that with this addition to his arsenal and a full offseason to be able to throw it, I think he can get to more of a, instead of 22, 23% like he ended last year for the whole year, I think he can get up to 26%. If you're already going to give me 170 and a half strikeouts and he had 172 with the, addition to this pitch, I think this is a great value and a great number. So love George Kirby this year.
Awesome highlight, Adam. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we're going to go to PVB for one more future for the day.
Yeah, I like both of those props quite a bit. I actually, again, if I could invest in the MVP market, I think those would be two guys I'd be looking at on both sides, the NL and the AL. For my last prop, of course, I just told you I was a pitcher guy and I don't have a pitcher prop, but I have a hitter prop instead. I'm taking Yordan Alvarez over 37.5 home runs this year. If any of you tailed my future last year, I took Alvarez to lead the league in RBIs at like plus 1,200. And that was tracking beautifully until, of course, he got hurt and missed a bunch of time and didn't get there. But I think this year, we could get the healthy version of him. He's never passed this mark in his career, but he is a physical specimen. He's 6'5", 225 pounds. Last year, he had 31 in just 114 games. And if we look 2 years back, he had 37 bombs in just 135 games. I always like to start by looking at the projection system. So we have the BAT-X that projects him to hit 39 in 139 games, Steamer 39 in 141 games, and then Zips is a little lower on him, but projecting a few less games, 36 in 134 games. Most of this is going to come down to health for him. And I think, he's only 25 years old or 26. He's entering the prime of his career. People say you're not healthy until you are. Look at Aaron Judge. People said he'd never stay healthy for a full year, and then he set his franchise record, right? So I think this is the year we could get it from Alvarez. If we look at last season's statistics, he was 7th in max exit velocity, 9th in average exit velocity, and 11th in hard hit rate. He was tied for second with both Acuna and Ohtani in barrels per plate appearance. If we kind of take a general view of what this all means, it means he sees the ball well, he squares it up, and he hits it really hard. And those are the two things you definitely want from a home run hitter. Little tidbits of things that also could help, with the new MLB scheduling. They play their division a little bit less, so he could avoid some bad homer stadiums a little bit more, such as the A's in Seattle. He certainly has plenty of lineup protection around him with Bregman, Tucker, Abreu, etc. So they don't have to worry about, regularly walking him all the time. And I think he's worth a sprinkle to lead the league in homers. If he can put together over 150 games this year, I could easily see him getting the title. And you can find that that's plus 1,600 on FanDuel. So I think this is the kind of coming out year for Alvarez. He's been around for a little while, and I think we forget how young he is. He's only 26. He's really just kind of hitting his prime. And this whole big men are always injured thing, it is until it isn't. We just saw Judge put together a nice year.
All right. Great recap. Love that. Okay. So sorry, I got to switch up the view here. There we go. All right. So that wraps up our future segment. Before we take off, we do want to give you guys a chance to chat about anything else MLB for the season that you didn't get to chat about in your futures. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we take off?
I got one thing, actually, if you guys got a second. So one thing that is kind of a difference, and especially when it comes to futures and everything like that, we want to make sure, when it comes to assumptions, last year, going into last year, we assumed that the books were going to, make the adjustments for stolen bases with the new rules and the pitch clock and everything like that. So one thing that actually changed this year that just approved upon. So when runners are on when runners are on base, the pitch clock was at, I believe, 20. And so it just got moved down to 18. So you already take 2 seconds off the pitch clock when runners are on base. I think that is a big deal for stolen bases again this year. So when it comes to stolen base, if you look at the stolen base markets, you think, okay, we're assuming that the books have corrected, the lines for futures. I don't think they have. I really don't. I mean, you look at, Duran. He's a leadoff hitter for Boston. His line set at 26.5. He had 20 stolen bases last year in 109 games, and now he's batting leadoff. And you're setting the line at 26.5. I don't understand it. So to me, things like that, where you just said, the markets are we're assuming that the markets have made that change. I don't think they have. And I think this new rule change, I kind of watched a video on MLB.com, and they were looking at a former pitcher talking to a former stolen base leader. And they said, how is it so easy for guys to, just take off? And we saw the percentages. Not only were people taking off from first, but they were taking off from second to third. You never saw that in previous years. But it's because they can see the pitch clock. They can see the pitch clock in their peripherals. They see, hey, it's at 2. I'm taking off, because they're not going to come over. The pitch clock is in people's heads. So I think that's a market I'm going to be taking a little bit harder look at as well going into this year. So just keep that in mind.
Great piece of insight. Thanks, Adam. Anybody else have anything they want to highlight?
Yeah, Adam, I think it was the most stolen bases since one of the years in the 1980s. So yeah, it was just as advertised. But something I forgot to talk about, going off of Adam's Fernando Tatis 30-30 club post, is I have his over, which is 26.5 stolen bases, which I think is free money if he stays healthy. So and he's my MVP pick. I know we said 3 bets. I've given like probably 7 by now, but I'm actually going in a little heavier than I usually do. I usually just do quarter, like half unit or a unit, but I actually have 2 units on Nando to win the National League MVP. But that was my little plug there.
I love that. Actually, real quick, even if you don't have a bet on it, do we want to say who you have for each of the MVPs? So you can just throw out a name if you don't have a specific bet, and just mention that, like, hey, this is not betting advice. This is just my take, but just for fun, who do you think the MVPs are going to be? So we've got one from Nick. Nick, do you have one for the other side?
Yeah, I do. So I gave that earlier as Bobby Witt. So at 25-1, and then Nando at 14-1 for the National League. Those are my MVP ones.
So there's Nick's. Adam, are you ready to go?
Yeah. So it's kind of a boring answer, but for the NL side, it's Shohei Ohtani. He doesn't have to focus on pitching. I mean, if you give a guy who's already been one of the best hitters in baseball, and you give him a time to just heal his entire body, and you have him to focus on one thing and not have to worry about 2 things every 5 days, he's going to go nuclear. He's got the perfect lineup to, drive in runs and RBIs. Mookie Betts, I don't think he's in the, I always want to pick a guy who's not going to have competition on his own team. Ronald Acuna, Matt Olson, like guys like that, where you're fighting for votes for each other. I think, Tyler Gosselin could get hurt. Not going to lie. He's not going to. He's going to hit that 170.5 strikeout prop for
He
Nick.
can get hurt after he strikes out 171
absolutely,
batters.
Yeah. Second half season, he's going to wind down. Absolutely. He's already got it in the bag. You won. No big deal. But I think he can focus on that, and I think he's got a great chance on the NL side. On the AL side, haven't looked at that too much, but I'm just going to go I'm going to go on brand. Julio Rodriguez. We're going to go that plus 10. He's 10-1. If he can keep the same numbers he had in the second half last year, he's due for a huge year. He's got a little bit more protection in the lineup, and I think he just puts his team on his back from the offensive standpoint. And 10-1 is great value as somebody that put up insane numbers last year.
I've seen a lot of stuff that Shohei wants to, or it was a rumor that Ohtani might want to lead the league in stolen bases this year since he doesn't have to pitch.
Oh, that's cool.
That's fun.
Hey, even better.
There you go. PVB, we'll go to you next, and then Ray will finish with you if you do want to chime in.
Cool.
Yeah, if I could bet it, which I should have when I was just recently in Colorado. I just didn't have the time to look into it. But I think my NL pick would be Tatis. I think we see a really nice bounce back from them here. I think we see a good bounce back from the Padres in general. When you're looking at MVP candidates, if you can get the 5-tool guys, that's usually where it's going to land. So Tatis has power. He hits for average. He runs. He's in a good offensive environment. I think that fits the bill. On the AL side, I think it's a little bit tougher. If I had to make a pick, I think I'd probably take Corey Seager. Again, health permitting, man, he's just always right there. I think he's pretty much, a good candidate. But again, health permitting, he's not always the healthiest, durable guy. If I had like a long shot, I think it's fun to put a little bit down on like a Royce Lewis. I think, he was this massive prospect, right? He was a top 3 prospect. He kind of hit a little lull when he got to AAA. But I just remember hearing so much about his work ethic, about how much he put into it. And he started dropping down prospect rankings. And I just had this feeling, I'm like, when this guy gets to the majors, man, he's going to rake. And sure enough, last year, that's all he did. He raked. This spring, he's raking. I think we're going to see a lot of power. I trust the Twins to be good. I trust the Twins' development. They've been good. So I think he's kind of a little fun. We might see a little coming out party from Royce Lewis this year.
Love it. And Fire, last up.
Yeah, I agree with PPP on Corey Seager. He played 119 games last year, put up the same stats he did, actually better stats than he did in 151 games the year before. We saw him just, he hit 330 consistently for the whole year. He did not skip any beats either. They pretty much have the same lineup. Adolis Garcia, Marcus Semien, Josh Jung. I mean, that whole lineup is stacked. Evan Carter, we saw him play pretty well last year as well. That's on the AL side. For NL side, it'll be a dark horse, but I like Corbin Carroll. Big fan of him. Loved playing him last year. Diamondbacks, I think they have a pretty good season. They made some additions, but I like him to be an everyday starter. He did not play much early in the season, but when he did play, speedy guy, loves stealing bases as well. So for a short guy too, he has pop. So I like him for a dark horse for my NL MVP.
Love it. And one more thing we'll look at before we wrap up for today. Once again, we're going to go kind of around the table. And if you have anybody for Cy Young. We'll start with Nick. I think Nick is ready.
Always ready for future bets.
Love it. Cy Young, who are you thinking?
I had to go a little crazy this year. Well, I lied. I do that every year for my futures, but I typically have 2 picks for each award. But this year I just have 1 for MVP for each league, but I do have 2 for American League and 2 for National League Cy Young. But I have Tariq Skubal 18-1 for my American League Cy Young, paired with Cole Reagan's 33-1. So I have 0.75 units on Skubal, and then I have a half unit on Cole Reagan's. And then for my National League, I have Max Fried 13-1 and Tyler Glasnow 18-1. And Fried was kind of an odd one that I came up with because I've never really been a Max Fried guy, but I dug deep with my Cy Young bets and I really fell in love with Fried, even though he had some blister issues last year, which is like, I mean, it sounds like a dumb injury, but it really is a big deal for a pitcher. But anyways, and I'm really buying into the whole contract year thing for Max Fried. The Braves seem to be really reluctant to offer him an extension, and I think it'd be a really good way for him to hit the free agency market is winning that Cy Young. And 13-1, it's not great value, but I like it.
I love it. We had a couple comments real quick that we'll address, and then we'll go to Adam, and then whoever else wants to jump in on the Cy Young conversation. Tyson Cole, Diamond Vaults hockey guy, go Padres. We've got Millie saying Patrick Corbin for him. The bounce back year is going to be crazy. So there we go. Couple thoughts from the comments. We're going to go to Adam next for some Cy Young insight.
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned I like his strikeouts, but if I like his strikeouts and he was already dominant last year, I got to throw in George Kirby, 14-1 for the AL Cy Young. But I also and that's a half unit. My full unit plays Corbin Burns. He got moved to the Orioles. The Orioles are very well known for making their pitchers great with what they are. I mean, the perfect example of that is Kyle Bradish last year. He came into the year, who is Kyle Bradish? Never heard that name before, and now they turn him into, one of the best pitchers in baseball. I think he was second in MLB all of last year in stuff plus, a metric made by Saris, and his slider is nasty. Hopefully he's not out for the year. But anyway, Corbin Burns has already been dominant. I think he stays healthy, and Baltimore utilizes what they already do with pitching, and they utilize what he did in his second half adjustments last year by throwing a little bit more sweeper action than he did his slider. So, and he's always going to have that cutter. So I think Corbin Burns at 11-1, 14-1 for my boy George Kirby on the AL side. On the NL side, I'm going to throw out a longer shot for you guys, and that's Yuri Perez at 40-1. So Yuri Perez, this could be a year off. I could just be a year early on him, but I think Uncle Ted said in the chat earlier, the Miami Marlins are not afraid to throw young players out there. I feel like, we saw that with Sandy Alcantara the year before he won the Cy Young. They just threw him to the Wolves. They let him figure it out on the mound. Yuri Perez is one of the most, I think he's like 19 or 20 years old. So again, could be a year early, but the upside on this guy is unreal. So he's got some raw, pretty amazing numbers. And I think at 40-1, I want to buy early than late on Yuri Perez. My other guy on the NL Cy Young, a little bit more reasonable price is going to be, sorry about that. I'm trying to find him. Logan Webb. I know it's kind of safe. He doesn't have the strikeout upside as a lot of people in this category, but I think they do land Blake Snell. I really do think they do, and I think Logan Webb is the ace of that rotation. People for some reason bet on teams that make the playoffs, and I think the Giants are one Blake Snell signing away from making the playoffs. And Logan Webb's always been consistent, and I think if he throws that slider like he should, I think he gets a little bit more strikeouts. He's super safe, and his run prevention numbers are pretty damn good. So we're going to throw Logan Webb out there at plus 950.
Love it. We're going to go to PVB next. Any thoughts on Cy Young this year?
Yeah. So I'm gonna align definitely with Nick with Tariq Skubal. I think what we're seeing this spring is really exciting. What we saw at the end of last year was really exciting. He's now got that. We always look at pitchers when they have Tommy John. Usually that first year afterwards is kind of like figuring stuff out. It's almost like he kind of got a new arm, right? So you're trying to get back in the rhythm. Sometimes your velocity is a little bit down. Your command's not good. Well, now we're a full year past that. His velocity is up in spring. His stuff is incredible. He's a lefty. I think this could be, the year he kind of puts it all together. I also like George Kirby as well. And same reason, I think if we can get a little bit more out of the strikeout rate, a 2% walk rate's insane. His whip's going to be insane. His ERA should be good. He pitches in a great park as a pitcher. I think we may see him kind of put it all together this year. And I just love really good command guys that have some stuff too. Like, I don't love like the soft tossers, but like guys that have good stuff and elite command, because, it just takes that one that one step, like that, DeGrom's like one of those guys, right? Like it took him just that one step to kind of put it all together. And maybe he does that this year. On the NL side, it's going to be, obviously, if Spencer Strider stays healthy, it's going to be tough to compete. But I also like Tyler Glass now. I think the Dodgers are really good at not only developing pitchers, but keeping them healthy. I think they use the IL to their advantage. Probably some would say, a little bit sketchy with the IL decisions. They'll give guys kind of little breaks and stuff just to kind of get them rested to make sure, they essentially use it as kind of like rest days at times. If I was going for more of a long shot, I think it's pretty fun to put a little bit down on Chris Sale, who is kind of a really nice bounce back candidate this year. He's looked really good in the spring. We know he's a Cy Young candidate on a good day or a good year. And I think we could see that bounce back and, once again, make the Red Sox not look so good for ditching these star players.
And speaking of the Red Sox, we have a comment. The Red Sox are the chalk this year.
Oh,
Sorry,
boy.
PVB.
Yeah, they are.
2 Red Sox fans in here. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, thank you for sharing that insight, PVB. Ray, anything on Cy Young before we wrap up the show?
Nothing official for me. I'm just going to give out 2 players that, have the possibility, and I like the odds. Justin Steele for NL, kind of a long shot there. And then for AL, I was liking Luis Castillo or Logan Gilbert, one of those guys. So
That guy,
nothing
Logan
really to
Gilbert.
back, nothing to really back those. Just some odds that I think have some value. So that's it for me.
I love it. So that officially brings us to the end of the show. Before we sign off, want to go around the table once more, let people know where they can find your content. Gentlemen, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We the panelists we have, like I said, I'm normally a hockey guy. The panelists that we have, very knowledgeable about baseball. So make sure you're following them if you're betting on the MLB this season. We'll start with PVB. We'll go to Nick, then Ray, then Adam. So let people know where they can find your work throughout the MLB season.
Sure. We actually almost hit an hour on the nose, so that's pretty impressive. You can find me. I'm part of the Diamond Vault, so you can find me in there. If you want to subscribe, you can reach out to one of us to ask us any questions you may have. We're trying to build a good community. We're very transparent, so feel free to ask to see our stuff, whatever that is. I'm also floating around on Twitter at PBV Bets. You can find me there. You can find me on Picket as well. And I usually try to have a play or 2 a day. So
love that. We'll go to Nick.
Yeah, again on Twitter at Nick's MLB Picks, and I post everything to my chalkboard pretty much right after I bet it. But I am in North Carolina, so we'll be getting all of the books. Well, not
Exciting.
all of them, but a lot more of them. So
welcome to the big leagues.
Yeah, I know. It's been a rough 5 years of betting on offshores, so it's been a hot mess. But anyways, so hopefully I can start actually using a tracking app that's not my notes and the action calculator for plus odds, which I pretty much have memorized by now. But so I'll probably be using one of those as well this year with the books, because they won't link to offshores. So
yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations on the books, Ray.
Yeah, as always, at Firefighter Bets, all socials. I have my link tree on my X account. You can find my Picket, props.cash, promo codes, anything of that sort. So at Firefighter Bets.
Love it. And Adam.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Adam's Digest. And then I'm also part of the Playbook HQ Discord. I have a few things in the works. Might be doing something, writing some articles just on my own, just in case anybody wants to read them. I'm a stat nerd, so hopefully I'll get a little traction from that. So
love it. Love it. Well, thank you all for joining us. Great to have our panelists here. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your knowledge. If you want to see more MLB content like this, let us know. Hit up any one of us. We'd love to do more if people want to hear it. So thank you so much for listening. Good luck with your futures and good luck in the MLB season. Take care, everybody.